Hey everyone, welcome to the High Priestess Demari channel and to another collective reading. I hope everyone is doing well. So we're going to have a look and see what you need to know this time of you watching. Alright, Ace of Wands. The Celestial Weaver. Okay, that's one of the special cards for this deck. There are two special cards and this is one of them. So that's very significant. Especially with that Ace of Wands. Powerful. Yeah, the Hierophant. Gosh, okay. Tell me more. Yeah, okay. Now, at the bottom of the deck, you have the Page of Wands. This is crazy, okay? So, guys, now is the time to get to the root of your fear when it comes to really, truly embodying your authentic power, okay? So this isn't a fear of authenticity. I feel like a lot of you guys are already working through that, okay? Whatever hang-ups you may have about being your authentic self and allowing yourself to just be as you really are, your true nature. This is more about the reclamation of your power in its entirety, okay? Ace of Wands energy. So, but the thing is, the torch is there, right? She literally is holding it. It's like you've been given the go-ahead, the sign, the invitation from the divine to take this next step. And it's not even that you needed permission. You just needed the courage to do it. So if even the universe is encouraging you, if the divine, God, goddess, the deities, okay, the benevolent, whatever higher forces that you feel like is at play in your life, right? Because it varies for everybody. If they themselves, right, are giving you the encouragement, the nudge to reclaim your power, to stand in your authenticity as a divine being, a creator being, what's stopping you from doing so, right? Because this is exactly what you are. You are this celestial weaver, this creator being. You have the capacity to not only reshape and remold your reality, but to completely shift it. You have the ability to transform any situation you currently find yourself navigating. Is it always easy? No. But the more you are in your true power, the more you see things clearly as is, right? The more you invoke your will, the more you're willing to recall. And this is something I discussed on TikTok, okay? I have a collective reading that I did live that I'm going to be sharing, right? Clipping and sharing over there. So I highly recommend watching that, okay? When it goes up, if you resonate with this, okay? Because it's interconnected. But the thing is, if you know you have been reclaiming soul fragments, if you've been reclaiming your energy, your power from circumstances, environments, situations, people, connections, right? That have drained you, wore you down, that have limited you or tried to have you be small, play it safe, then this is the inevitable next step in your journey, right? The reclamation of all facets of self, of all fragments of self, coming back to a true state of oneness, wholeness, complete, right? Completion, which is what this year is all about. It is the journey of graduating, okay, from a series of life lessons, profound truths, okay, that you have now consciously come to the awareness of. And so now that you're aware, now you have gnosis, knowledge with the Hierophant. It's time. It's time to reclaim the throne. Take your rightful seat at the table, right? It is time. There is nothing to prove at this point. It's just a case of will. That's literally it. You've already been through the trials and tribulations. You've already been through the spiritual tests. You've been through a tremendous amount of initiations. This is the next one, right? You having the courage and the will to reclaim your power in its entirety. And that means you're going to integrate with every version of self that is in existence. That means you're going to be able to tap into multiple lifetimes, right? You're going to be able to tap into those core memories that all exist within the same space, right? So it's very powerful, right? This is the energy of the crone, the elder. So a lot of you guys are taking this initiation from like the Divine Mother, and you've undergone a massive amount of learning, teaching, understanding, healing with the Divine Mother, and you're being initiated into the space and energy of the crone, right? The Divine Grandmother, who is a font of wisdom, who is exceptional at mediation, finding common ground, commonality, balance, harmony, grounded in truth and wisdom from the many situations and many years that you have navigated life. The wealth of information, insight, and experience that you've accumulated, all coming together at this moment in time so that you can be this source of insight, guidance, wisdom. So this isn't even about being a keeper of knowledge. This is about imparting the knowledge that you have acquired on those who come to you for your counsel, for your wisdom, for your expertise, for your knowledge. Because you definitely hold a tremendous amount of knowledge and wisdom that others will benefit from. These could be younger generations. These could be people who have had less experience in a specific arena, right? You may be well educated in something particular. You may be constantly expanding upon your knowledge base in a certain area, but it's giving very much like an expert energy, right? Someone who's highly knowledgeable on a specific given area and is able to impart information and advice, guidance, counsel, is able to help find a solution or give wise words to help people on their journey, right? So it's literally giving the energy of like a spiritual elder. So not only in the physical are you growing, maturing, evolving, but your soul has elevated as well, right? So you may resonate with that. You may even be getting signs and symbols around that. You may be seeing imagery around the crone, right? The crone, Baba Yaga, right? Witches, things of that nature, medicine men and women, elders, tribal chiefs, right? People who have knowledge. So these could be telltale signs for you that this is literally the next stage in your soul's evolution. That you're going from being what a lot of people would consider like the divine masculine and the divine feminine, which is like the divine father and mother, really, right? A lot of the time when people are speaking on those concepts, that's the stage they're speaking from, right? Entering that state. But for whoever I'm picking up on, no, you're going to the next level. So you're an ancient soul, ancient, right? And you're ready to transition into a spiritual elder on a soul level, never mind on a tangible level, on a soul level. So divine masculine, divine feminine energy, but it's like the divine grandmother, grandfather energy. It's not about whether or not you have children or grandchildren. It's just literally your soul's evolution. It's just a way of describing where you're at on a soul level. So your counsel, your words have a tremendous amount of weight, and you know that, which is why you're getting in your head, right? Great power, great responsibility. But you don't have to fear the responsibility because you're not reckless, right? You're intentional, which is why you're even in the Hierophant position. That's why you're even showing up as the celestial weaver, right? You may even resonate with Iron Soph energy, Sophia, Pictus, right? Yeah, you may resonate with that. So, but Eight of Swords energy, right? Again, these roots, far-reaching roots. Ancient knowledge, wisdom, okay? You have grown and evolved from the ground up. You start off as a seedling once, just like everyone else, even on a soul level, right? Before this lifetime. And look, you've grown over an enormous expanse of time. But time is, again, it's relative, right? Depending on where you're viewing it from. But you are an ancient soul. So what is there to fear? What has you in your head, right? We're going to look at this in more detail. Because for some of you guys, you may feel like the very roots that you have, the very fact that you are this ancient being, okay? These deep-reaching roots where you literally understand and know the path, right? If you look at like the Kabbalah, right, the Kabbalic system, if you look at the Sephiroth, right, and all the different gates in the tree of life, right, we've got literally a tree here, and all of that experience in the spiritual and the physical, no, in the spiritual and the astral, that then enables you to materialize in the 3D, or for your vision to materialize. But then you also have the tree of death, where you go into the underworld, okay, where your true character is forged, is tested, is put through trials and tribulations for you to gain the level of gnosis that you've acquired, awareness, perception, consciousness. You had to navigate a lot to reach this point. So the fact you were able to not only endure, not only to overcome, but to flourish into this type of being, what could you possibly be fearful of, right? Like, not everyone survives the journey through those gates, all right? And that's why they say, heaven and hell is experienced here, and it's very true. You've been through that, right? You know the polarities, right? And understand that they are two sides of the same coin, right? Two experiences that are interconnected, that lead you to this understanding and this grounded energy that you're in now, right? So I'm curious, like, what is it you fear? Do you feel like this is something that's like a trap for you? Do you feel confined by the very title that you have, or by the very experiences that you've had? Right? Because it hasn't been easy. There's been growing pains. There's been, a lot of instances where you could have been chopped down, right? And yet you still stand defiantly. Your leaves are still growing. But is that why you feel afraid to accept this power of yours, or to claim this title? Because you're concerned of what that may mean, or that, you're coming to the end of the road or something like that? I don't know. We'll have a look. But there really is nothing to fear. Just because your soul is entering this next phase, right, doesn't mean that your soul is going to end. No. It just means you've reached a certain level in your soul's evolution where, you could take on a different role moving forward, right? So you don't necessarily have to incarnate on the earthly plane, right? You may be able to have an entirely different experience, to the point where you may actually go on to be like an ascended master, right? Or a guardian spirit for someone. You don't necessarily have to incarnate and be made on the material plane, right? Through a physical vessel. You don't have to necessarily have that experience, right? Maybe you do. Maybe you do want to have that experience. But the thing is, I just feel like whatever you feel like has been a trap for you that's been ongoing, and it's not really a trap, but you may feel that way, right? Like, especially if you know you've had multiple incarnations and you exist in multiple different parallel timelines, then you may feel like this is a never-ending process, right? But this is why it's important for you to hear this message, because I don't think that's the case because of what you've been doing, and especially because of the work that you're doing now, right, in this particular lifetime. I don't think you have to do that. This is the culmination of all of those versions of yourself and experiences. So you've reached a point, you're reaching a level where you won't necessarily have to do that. Okay, but I think that's what you're concerned of, right? But we'll have a look. Yeah, Ten of Swords. So there is an energy of surrender here, right? You claiming your power in its entirety and you essentially taking up the mantle, right? The torch is being passed to you, I'm telling you. The torch is being passed, okay? And by you doing that, it's like it's going to liberate you from all of those painful experiences, right? You may even see that as you sort of come, as these versions of self become unified in this way, or integrated, you may even bear witness to all of the lifetimes where, you know, you passed, right? So you may bear witness not only to memories of those various lifetimes, okay? It's not just the past ones, but those are in existence in general, right? But obviously, a lot of the time when past life regression takes place, past life regression, I say that, but, you know, again, don't get caught up on the timelines. But these versions of yourself, when you start doing this work, you may notice that one of the first things you see is how you died, okay? Or how you transitioned. So that can be quite a jarring experience for someone who has experienced that. I appreciate that it's not the easiest to witness, right? But that's just letting you know that you are integrating with all of these different versions of self that are in existence, having these different experiences, multiple experiences all at the same time, right? Because again, time is not linear. It all occupies the same space, past, present, and future. It just depends on the coordinate that you're viewing it from, right? So you'll be able to tap into these memories that you feel like are pertaining to a lifetime that must have happened hundreds of years ago, you know, decades ago, thousands of years ago, or even in the future from where you're viewing it from, you know? But it all occupies the same space, so... Yeah, the Phoenix. Look, that's the second special card in this deck. Unreal. And you've got both of them together. This is extremely powerful. So this is definitely a graduation, a completion when it comes to a major journey, when it comes to your soul's evolution. So that's why you're having like this sort of graduation where all of these lifetimes are being synced to such an extent where you're starting to integrate all of these different versions of self, right? Because you are becoming truly embodied and one with your spirit, your higher self. So your conscious self and your higher self are merging in such a way that you gain access to these insights, right? These memories across multiple timelines and versions of self, okay? Parallel timelines. And so with that, boom, rebirth, okay? So again, you're going to see the breaking away, the crumbling, and these endings, right? But it's going to like transport you through the endings to the beginning, right? So you may see how you pass and then see multiple aspects, multiple situations, different points in your lifetime. And then boom, coming to the birthing period. So going back, almost like, you know, looking retrospectively back in time, right? Back into the point where you reach the very sort of conception of your soul, which is unreal, okay? So It's very powerful. So you may even witness the birthing of your spirit. Okay? Yeah. And then from that, boom, it's like the Big Bang, right? And you're reborn. So I'm telling you, do not fear this process, because your soul isn't ending. Your soul is just evolving in such a profound and powerful way that it's hard to really describe it in a way that gives it, that really does it justice. Let's put it that way, right? But what you perceiving as the end is actually the beginning, okay? Because it's a loop, it's a cosmic loop, right? The infinity symbol, yeah. But what is actually happening is you're evolving to such a profound level that you get to observe all of this, right? So essentially the perception you're gaining is that of the 4D, right? So just how like 4-dimensional beings or higher dimensional beings can view the 4D reality, right? See multiple timelines all at once, you are gaining the capacity to do that as well. So this is unreal. You have the capacity to view multiple timelines at once, right? You can jump between them. So you may have already had glimpses of that. I don't doubt that, okay, being in this energy, but not to the extent we're talking about here, where you can literally like just almost like your consciousness can jump to another version of you and observe it at will. So this wouldn't be just by accident or when you're just meditating or, you know, after a tremendous amount of effort, like you'll just be able to do it at will. Like this is crazy, but in the best possible way. Yeah, justice. So I'm telling you, with the justice being here to the 8 of Swords, it's like you don't have to be afraid, because you are not going to have to repeat these experiences, right? That's the point. You've reached a point in the road. You've gained so much wisdom and understanding. You gained the knowledge that you needed to have. You've wrapped up the things you needed to wrap up. So there's no need, right? So it's like literally the scales are balancing out. You know all sides of the spectrum, good, bad, and indifferent, okay? Depending on how, again, you perceive it, how you're viewing it, right? So you've had such a wealth of experience. You've encountered so many different frequencies, right? You've had so many death rebirths that it's just not even needed. Exactly, look, High Priestess energy. You are the Hierophant and the High Priestess. You have profound knowledge. I can't stress this enough, right? You have profound knowledge. This is not something you can fully describe to someone, okay? This is a very personal experience to you. So unless someone is on this journey themselves, they're not going to truly understand it, right? Because it's hard to really vocalize this experience. It's going to be very personal. What you witness, what you are navigating, right? What you have overcome, what you've endured, what you've grown through, okay? What you have evolved into, like, you can't describe it. It's hard to really describe it. It's just something that has to be felt, seen, and experienced, right? Again, with the Magician as well. Like you've reached such an elevated point in your ascension that this is just about embodiment now. That's literally all this is about. This is not about learning lessons at this point. The lesson here is about embodiment. It's time to embody who you really are at full capacity. No more shrinking, no more hiding, right? You know it's time. Nothing I'm telling you right now. Yeah, there may be some tidbits here that you weren't aware of that may blow your mind. But in terms of this energy of needing to embody your true nature, who you really are, right? And this highly evolved being that you've become, you already know this. You already know the call is there. You're already being told it's time. Okay? So it's time to simply strip away The frequency that is of pain and fear, the mindset that is rooted in pain and fear, right? Suffering, Ten of Swords energy. This is not a frequency you need to carry anymore. You've transcended that. So it's time to let it go. It's time to transmute this energy, right? Because that's the only thing that's holding you back, right? Is the remnants, the residual energy of those experiences, right? But as this integration takes place, it's time for you to alchemize that, right? Purify it, alchemize it, right? Transmute it into being another energy source, a catalyst for this major ascension burst. I don't know how to describe it. It's like literally like a big bang here, right? So this is unreal. It's giving literally like supernova energy, you know? Like this is crazy. Yeah. And that's the thing, with that Four of Swords at the bottom of the deck, I feel like you've had plenty of time to ruminate, to contemplate. You've taken some time out to self. You've been healing. But now, this is about spiritual alchemy, right? And acceptance, right? Receiving the torch. It's not even for you. It's not even about work you need to do. You've been doing the work. You will continue to do the work, right? But now this is just more about embodiment, okay? Wow, give me one more to wrap that up. Look, King of Pentacles. Page of Pentacles. See the growth. The growth. And that's it. Because of what's happening on a soul level, tangibly speaking, you're going to go through like major rapid changes in your physical reality. To the point where people are going to be like, you know, in a bit of a tailspin, like, how the hell did that happen? How did you go from a page to a King of Pentacles just like that? That is a leap, okay? That means you've gone, like, you've already, like, skipped the Knight of Pentacles, skipped the Queen of Pentacles, going straight to the King. It's not going to make sense, right? Looking at the surface. People are going to think there must be something underhanded going on, but it's not. It's just a case of you just took the torch, right? And invoked your will. Embraced who you really are. Alchemized this residual energy. And that was all that was needed, right? So, because you're always willing to be the student, you've become the master, okay? With that King of Pentacles. To the point where wherever you can conceptualize off in your physical reality, you can make it materialize, right? Like, nothing is going to be off limits to you in this energy, right? If there's something you can conceptualize off and you can hold it, right? As a belief, having true knowledge of the thing, you can make it happen. So if you want to change your lifestyle, you can change it. If you want to change any aspect of your physical reality, you can do that. Okay? But like I say, the way it's going to happen though, it's going to be like you just popped out of nowhere, right? Like these changes just happened overnight. But that's not the case. This has been a long time in the making. But outwardly, on the surface, it's going to look like, you know, you were starting to grow something, or you were trying something out, or you were starting at the bottom, and then you're here, you know? You just arrived, and it's like, how the heck did you go from being like a novice, right? Going from like, you know, trying to grow something to like absolutely thriving, just like that. But it's not just like that. Again, the physical plays such a small part in comparison to everything else that's going on behind the scenes, right? Yes, you have to apply the knowledge. You have to take action. But all of this internal processing is what's enabling you to sit in this, you know, this King of Pentacles energy. If you hadn't done this work, you wouldn't have got to King of Pentacles, right? Not like this. You would have been in Knight of Pentacles energy, right? eventually going into the Queen of Pentacles. But because you've been doing this work, you're going to go from being in the Page of Pentacles energy to the King. Right? That's how rapid changes are going to occur in your physical reality. So it is imperative that you do this work, okay? Because I'm telling you, you are being seated, throned, crowned, set up, established in something here, right? It could have something to do with a spiritual art form here, right? It could be something rooted in healing, transformations, right? It could be something to do with, again, like education, knowledge, right? Guidance, counsel. But either way, whatever it is you're going to do, right? And just by being very much yourself, very much embodied in your true likeness, your true form, right? Yeah, you are going to be extremely successful. Because you're literally just showing up as you really are. Not who you thought you were, but as you really are. Right? And it's going to shock people, because the people that thought they knew you, they didn't. Right? But they're going to come to know you. Okay? And this is not rooted in ego. This is literally a case of having done the work. Okay? Been doing the work. Still doing the work. Right? Over lifetimes. And this is the result. That you have more power and influence over the physical than you've ever experienced ever. Right? So I'm telling you, like, this will change your life. Exactly. 7 of Pentacles, right? Not everyone is willing to do this work. So not everyone is going to understand, comprehend what's happened or what's going on with you or what it's taken. They're only going to see the results, right? They haven't seen the growing pains. They haven't seen the trials and tribulations. They haven't seen all the weeding you've had to do. They haven't seen how you've been tending to these seedlings over an extended period of time, right? The disappointments, the losses, okay? The rebuilding, the restructuring. They haven't been privy to all of that, especially behind the scenes. They may have seen glimpses of that in terms of how that looks physically, but not behind the scenes, right? All they're going to see now is the results. So this is crazy. Yeah, Knight of Swords energy. So don't be surprised if you have some people out of the woodwork, right? Questioning you, poking you, right? Quizzing you, trying to gain insight on what happened, how it happened, right? How you've changed, why you've changed, who you are at this point. Because they don't have that understanding, and that's what they want. They want to understand how it happened, right? Because these are people who are still very much on this journey. They still haven't, in some cases, they haven't awakened, right? To their truth yet. But this may be the sign, the catalyst, okay, the inspiration that initiates that. So don't always get defensive. I don't think you will be, especially in this energy. Don't get defensive if people start asking questions out of curiosity, because they're not going to have understanding, but that's what they are looking for, understanding, right? I don't even think you have to really worry about anyone trying to oppose you at this point, because anyone who would want to do that, when they see you in this energy, then they wouldn't come forward. I can promise you now, they would not come forward. Exactly, the World card. Right? They would not come forward because they can't fathom. They can't fathom the energy you're showing up in, right? It is literally like you're from another world, like you're an alien, okay? So it's like they don't want to risk poking the unknown, right? While you were shrinking, while you were small, while you were in self-doubt, yeah, they'll do that. But once you complete this process, this alchemical process within, yeah, they're not going to do that, right? If anything, they're going to be stood on the outskirts, right? Be a bystander, observing what you're doing in the world, who you are showing up as you really are, and pondering rather than wanting to antagonize. And with that, lovers, yeah, you may reconnect or connect with souls, with individuals who are also going through this process, right? Because again, frequency recognizes frequency, okay? Even those who are, like I say, curious about this journey or just initiating this journey, they're still going to be able to see your frequency. They just may not be able to understand it. They'll still see your light. They'll see that there's something profound happening with you, right? There's something profound about your nature, your energy. They just won't necessarily understand it. But then there's others who are going to be going through their own process as well, that are going to want to connect. The bridging of worlds. Your world connecting with someone else's. Beautiful. So guys, very profound reading. Like I say, I highly recommend, if you are on TikTok, feel free to go over to my TikTok account, High Priestess Demari, okay? There are lots of scam accounts, so don't be duped, okay? Mine has got the handle Demari Visayth, okay? Feel free to check that out. And so there are some readings over there. I'll also link it in the description, okay? So you can go straight to my account. But there are a couple of readings that I highly recommend checking out if you resonate with this. Especially the ones entitled Soul Remembrance. There's clips there. You'll have to scroll down a little bit. Then there's ones called Liberating the Emotional Body. Okay, that was a collective reading I did live some days ago. And there's one that I did just a couple of days back. Yeah, that's going up as well. Okay, so I definitely recommend following me and checking out those readings where possible, okay, because they are definitely connected to this, okay? So you've been on this journey, this healing journey, right? We saw that with the Four of Swords, but now I'm telling you, this is your big bang moment, okay? This is the integration. This is coming back to wholeness. This is the remembrance of your very creation on a soul level, right? And being very much in tune and interconnected with all versions of self. So this is like a goddess awakening. Wow. So by going through this process, you'll be closer to source than you've ever been. I'm telling you. So powerful. And I say ever been, since your conception, right? Since your materialization, should I say. Ever since you first incarnated, right? So this is unreal. I hope this helps whoever needed this message. This blew my socks off, okay? I didn't expect to get a message quite like this, but obviously it is time, okay? And it makes sense, even with all the transitions, right, that are taking place astrologically speaking, all that's happening within the collective auric field, okay, the healing of the collective shadow, the recalibration of the masculine and feminine archetypes, the inner child healing that a lot of people are doing right now. Like, it makes so much sense, right? You can see how these different facets of self are transforming, healing, growing, and becoming unified. So it really does make sense. So guys, it is time, okay? It is time to come back to oneness, wholeness, okay? Completion. So amazing. I hope this serves you guys well. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you hit the thumbs up. Drop me a comment. Let me know your thoughts, okay? Feel free to share any aspect of your journey that you feel comfortable with sharing, or just your views on this. I'd love to hear from you guys. And of course, I do appreciate your support. It's what will enable me to continue creating these readings here on YouTube, which I'd love to do. But trust me, I really do need your support. So thank you so much in advance, and I will chat to you guys later. Bye.